Hi everyone, my name is Ethan. I'm going to tell you about the time we rescued our mum from her stepfather. The story is horrifying because only later did my brother and I realise what she had to go through just to protect us. Mum and my half-brother Justin lived together for a while, and then Mum met my dad. They got things rolling, they got married, and I was born. Despite our age differences with Jazz, we still somehow got along. We shared a room, even though there were empty guest rooms in the house. We had fun together. He had played with me since I was born, groomed me, and helped me. My mother couldn't get enough of that picture. My father is a powerful man. He is into some pretty dark stuff. He's kind of a gangster? My father grew up in a poor family of fathers, taking care of livestock, and his dream was to get rich. So he hooked up with one of the popular gangsters. He gave Dad some work and then took him into his circles. He planned to be his successor, but that gangster was killed, so Dad took over quickly. Since that guy had no family, my father was the only contender. They'd grown very close over the years. Anyway, my dad's in the smuggling business or something. I'm sure he's got a lot behind him that we don't know about, but we've been living well, so we didn't ask any questions. And our mum stayed home with us. Everything seemed fine, except for one thing. My father sometimes got very rowdy. If he drank, my mother used to move us to the house next door, where the maid looked after us. My brother and I always wondered how she calmed him down, but Mum only said it was better for us not to know. When Jazz and I got older, we didn't want to know ourselves, because we knew roughly what they were doing. And then one day, Dad had a big deal gone bad, and he came home furious and grabbed the bottle. "Mum, I don't want to go in that house." "No, son, you'd better go. Your dad is going to drink." "Come on, you little brat, let's go play some consoles." I didn't want to go that night. I don't know why. Usually my brother and I had no problem leaving, because it was an extra excuse to play. But here's something. "That's it, come on. Eleonora will look after you." "I don't need a babysitter, I'm an adult. I can look after the baby myself." "It'll be safer that way. That's it, boys, go to." Mum's voice was very worried, and I knew that's what fear looked like. Only this time, it was more intense. Justin and I left. I didn't have time to say anything. We sat and played, and I kept losing, and I never liked anything. I scoffed a lot, and then I asked Eleanor to call my mum. She said my mum wasn't answering, so I packed up and ran outside. Justin was trying to catch up with me. It was winter, it was snowing, and it was terribly cold. I followed my mum. She's with her stepdad. What could happen? "Did you see him today? He's not just mad, he's freaking out. He's too weird. We're about to get in a bad moment, and I'm going to be sorry for both of us." We burst into the house, and right on the threshold, I saw drops of blood. Justin froze, and then he ran towards the screams. We ran into the kitchen and saw my dad hitting my mum over the head with a mug. "Dad, stop!" Justin ran up to him and hit him hard. Dad fell on the floor. "Boys, what are you doing here? Go away!" "Don't touch my mum, you bastard!" "What did you say, you little brat?" "Don't touch them, Jim. Don't touch our kids." "Our kids? Do you mean your kids, right?" "Don't start, not in front of them." "What's he talking about, Mum?" "Ah, that's it, son. I'm not your father. I'm just your stepfather as your brother Justin. Your mother gave birth to you by another man." "You knew about that. I told you. You said you were going to have a son." "Yes, the years have gone by fast, especially since I can't have children. But you know, honey, still, I've been married for 10 years, but I can't accept that the kids aren't mine." He swung again, but Justin hit him over the head with the frying pan, grabbed Mum, and we ran out of the house. We got in Mum's car, and Justin took us somewhere far away from all this. Mum rented the nearest hotel for us, where we were able to more or less calm down, and afterwards we asked her questions. Mum cried a lot and then told us that at that point they had been unable to have children for a long time. They decided on IVF, but nothing worked. Then the doctor suggested that the parents give birth to Mum through IVF, but as if the biological father would be someone else. They thought for a long time, and the father gave his consent. He really wanted a son, and so he agreed. As you can see, he couldn't keep his word. "Did he just hit you every time he drank?" Sometimes when he wasn't drinking. Why didn't you say anything? What could I do? Leaving him is the end. He just won't give us a quiet life. We'll be on the run all our lives. So be it. I'm not with him. I can't live with him anymore after what I've seen. Neither can I, especially since he's nobody to me. He's raised you. I didn't. And you raised me. I don't remember him ever sitting or playing with me. Mum was crying bitterly, and we knew we had to do something else because Dad could easily find us. We decided to rest and think in the morning. But in the middle of the night, there was some noise at the door, and we heard the familiar voice of Dad's assistant. He knocked and asked if we were in the room. We didn't make a sound out of fear. Justin pointed to our window with his finger, grabbed a floor lamp from the table himself, and stood at the door. Mum, terrified in her nightgown, only had time to grab her purse with her keys and credit cards. I took her hand and we looked out over the balcony. It wasn't that high, but we had to jump into the pool. No, it's too dangerous. Justin said, let's go. No, son, I can't take that chance with you. Then the door breaks down. Justin hits his dad's assistant in the head with the floor lamp, but there were more guards in the back. I grabbed my mum's hand and we jumped down. Justin jumps down after us. The guards run to the exit down the hallway. We somehow got out and ran to the car. Mum got behind the wheel and drove us at speed away from there. No sooner had we gone a few blocks when a black car cut us off and we almost flipped over. Mum gets a text message on her phone from her dad telling us to get back or it will get worse. But we keep speeding. Then another car comes around the corner and we hit the curb and the car flips in the air. I hit my shoulder really hard, Justin's back and Mum's head, but we were all alive. We were dragged out of the car and dragged to another car. 15 minutes later, we were at my dad's house in his office, surrounded by bodies. Let us go in peace. I don't need anything from you, just let us go.
Do you think I'm gonna let you do that? There's too much stuff registered for these kids, and for you too.
We'll give up everything, just let me go, please. But Daddy wasn't satisfied with that either. He was so bloodthirsty, he wanted something more. And then he changed his face and said that if she gave him us, he would leave her alone. Mum screamed that she only wanted us and that she couldn't trust him. Then he swung and slapped her in the face. Justin wanted to react. That's when they put him in a chair and held him down by his bodyguards by force. That's when I realized that until he destroys us, he won't leave us alone. Dad, you're a businessman.
Why? Did you get a better offer?
I suggest you let us go. We take everything that's written on us and what's owed to Mum, and we leave and you leave us forever.
Ah, clever. And what's in return?
Your freedom.
What do you mean?
Remember Mr. Ludovic?
What?
You used to work for him. You're just lucky you got his whole case back then. But while I was poking around on the internet, his grandson found me. He's about my age, but he's got a father about your age. So they asked about you. I didn't say anything at the time, but at the time I thought you were my father. And now it turns out you're a nobody to me, right?
Get to the point.
If you don't let us go, I'll tell them all about you and your business. Mr. Ludovic didn't die of a heart attack, did he, Daddy? You poisoned him.
Where are you from?
The good thing about my childhood is that you didn't play with me, but you did let me in your office during meetings. I just remembered that. Dad was convinced. He let us go, and that way we were able to defend ourselves and get away.
I always thought I knew my family well. Everyone has their own secrets, but we try to live without them, especially when it comes to something important. My mother raised us like this. We trusted her and my sister, but then it turned out that I was wrong. That after all, my little sister Anna had something to hide, and when I revealed her secret, I was confused, because it was shocking. My name is Frankie, as I said, and I have a little sister, Anna, who's very sweet and kind, or so I thought. My parents and I thought she was almost a dandelion. Since I was a child, my father told me to stand up for her, to protect her always, to be there for her, and to be able to listen. Because I'm her own person, and the only one who wants only the best. You understand that it doesn't always work out that people we call friends always be with us. This is life. There's nothing bad or good here. It's just normal and you need to accept it. I remembered my parents' instructions, and I always try to do my duty as a brother. When Anna was growing up, we watched it with emotion because she was the youngest child. We have a small age difference of 3 years, but it still strengthened my position as the senior in the house. So one day, when we went to school with her, We were almost hit by a car on the way there. I was so scared, but I reacted quickly, pushing her to the side of the road. Anna fell straight into the mud, but she wasn't hurt. I was fine too. I remembered the car. I wanted to go to the police, but Anna dissuaded me. She said that it was some kind of jerk, and it wasn't worth it. I listened to her, and I shouldn't have. Around the same time, we began to notice that Anna was separating from us. She spent more and more time alone in the room, and often began to go out for a walk. I understood that she was a teenager. Apparently, there were friends, interests, and so on. We didn't want to limit or intrude too much into her personal space, but the more we kept quiet, the more she had a life of her own. I never tried to talk to her. Maybe something's bothering her. But she just smiled back at me, and that's it. Anna liked to run to the house in our yard, where we kept unnecessary junk. But Sister cleaned it up properly, made it cozy, and she went there with her friends. Sometimes they all spent the night there. My mother occasionally visited there, but Anna did not like it, so we tried not to disturb her once again. Our distance from each other worried me. I could feel something happening, but I couldn't figure out what it was. Almost 6 months had passed in this way. Anna was completely different. She was no longer the same cheerful girl, and one day, I decided to pick her up after school. I went to pick her up in class, but the teacher said that she hadn't shown up for school for 3 days. Yes, I'm sorry. I stopped by out of habit. I forgot. She's sick. I'm sorry, Miss Trevel. She'll be here tomorrow. I said to the teacher, and I left. I had to lie so she wouldn't call the parents. I was already seriously worried, which meant that something had happened, and I needed to find out what it was. The first thing I did was go to her friend Barbara's house, where they'd been friends for several years. When she saw me, she was surprised. We just talked to her on the phone yesterday. She said that she was at home, that everything was fine. She said that she would do her homework because today she has a chemistry test, Barb said. My sense of unease was transmitted to her. Her friend said that Anna had changed a lot. She's become secretive since she met a guy named Brad. I immediately asked who he was and where he came from, but according to her, my little sister didn't really want to talk about him. They spent a lot of time together, so for the last 3 weeks, we haven't even met once. Just talked on the phone, she said. I decided to find him, but there was so little information that I realized that it was possible that I would find something in her room. I went home and told my mother that Anna had gone to visit Barbara, and I went to my sister's room secretly. I quickly searched the room, but found nothing special, absolutely nothing. However, the only thing that I noticed was some kind of book, or rather a notebook with numbers. What they meant, I didn't understand. I took it with me, and then I abruptly remembered about the house in the yard. I went there and saw a combination lock with a hesitant movement. I tried to enter the numbers combination, but everything was wrong. For 20 minutes, I tried to open it and even break down the door, but nothing happened. I sat down on the ground, and I began to think, what is it that she installed a combination lock? And then suddenly, I felt her notebook in my pocket. I tried a few numbers, and voila, the door opened. I went in there and turned on the light. In general, everything looked the same as always, just a little dirty. After a little digging, I suddenly noticed the shoes. They were men's shoes, and Brad came to mind. Ugh, I didn't even want to think about him being here. I checked the wardrobe, the sofa, the table, but there was nothing special, and before I left, I tripped over the shoes and almost fell, hitting the wall next to the TV. I clicked on something, and I heard a click. The head immediately turned to the side of the door. Only now I noticed that the recess in the shape of the door was different in color from the main wall. As soon as I opened it, almost fell in a small opening, like a tiny room. I saw a weapon. Oh, my God. Sis, where are you going? I thought. I didn't take it with my bare hands, so I took Anna's t-shirt, wrapped it up, and took it back to me. I had my things in a safe place, along with my notebook. Almost as soon as I walked in, my mom asked me to call Anna, and she told me the news. There was a murder in the city, and it happened just a couple blocks away. I was worried. I called Anna, but she didn't answer, and a moment later, she appeared on the doorstep. She behaved so naturally and sat down at the table and began to ask what was for lunch. My mother asked me about school, and I sat there and listened to how easy it was for her to lie. I didn't know how to talk to her, where to start, and then a couple of hours later, she said that a friend had come to visit her and she wanted to go. My mother only allowed me a stand outside the house, and Anna agreed. When the car arrived, I recognized it. It was the sedan that almost hit us on the road. They went into the house. In the yard, I followed them. He was so ugly, older than her, and my heart sank. I couldn't help but rush in, grab him by the collar, and push him against the wall, and the door opened. Anna nervously cast a glance there, and he asked, Where? Where is he? Not even paying attention to the fact that I'm holding him. Anna said she didn't know, and then she yelled at me. It all happened so fast. Your weapon's in a safe place with all your prints, I told him, and he turned pale. What did you get her into? While Anna begged me to let him go. Brad tried to free himself, but he couldn't, and I clenched my fist and was about to paint his face, when Anna said that I had misunderstood everything. Brad tried to hit me again, so I did it first and he passed out. Anna began to cry, and I demanded an explanation. She begged him not to turn him into the police and said that his brother accidentally shot while playing with a gun and wounded a man. Brad tried to hide it, but she helped him. I asked her where he got it and why he almost ran us over on the road, and she said it was his stepfather's, and he was a criminal, but Brad's mother loved him, so she asked him to hide it. The stepfather's being tried. If he gets caught again, he'll be put in jail forever. She loves him, and Brad, he's protecting his little brother. His stepfather was in the car at the time. He was drunk and doesn't even remember driving. Anna said, as I was stunned, and then Brad came to his senses and told me the same thing. He begged me not to hand him over to the police, but I said I couldn't let it go. But I knew that my sister would also suffer for possession of a weapon. We told our parents, and they were horrified, but they thanked me for doing the right thing. Brad's stepfather was jailed for selling illegal things. Anna was interviewed, and Brad himself was also punished. He's now working out his allocated hours of community service. At first, Anna was angry, but then she promised not to get into any more trouble, or at least not to hide it from me. It's all over now. Tell me, guys, you like my story? Write your opinion about it in the comments below the video. Don't forget to put likes, share the video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.